Okay, let's unpack this. I was looking at my credit card statement the other day, and I had this moment of
Mild horror.
yeah, exactly, mild horror between the streaming subscriptions, the artisanal coffee, and the essential tech upgrades. My discretionary spending is basically non-existent.
Right.
And yet I looked up from my laptop, and there it was, a little plastic dumpling sitting right on my desk.
Just staring at you.
Literally just staring. It lights up, it has a face, it does absolutely nothing productive. And I realized, despite the budget cuts, I'm not willing to get rid of the dumpling.
Well, that little dumpling is probably doing a lot of heavy lifting for your mental health, actually.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. It's what we call the millennial crunch versus the need for comfort.
Yes. And that brings us exactly to what we're doing a deep dive into today.
The kidult phenomenon.
Right, this massive shift where adults are now the primary drivers of toy sales. We see it with brands like Jellycat, and those Warmies millennials and Gen Z are basically agreeing that toys just don't have an age limit.
They really don't.
But specifically, for you listening, we're looking at the economics of play when you also have a mortgage to pay. We're talking about a blind box.
The blind box is fascinating because it weaponizes, and I mean that in the most fun way possible, a very specific psychological principle.
Okay.
It's called variable ratio reinforcement.
Okay, that sounds clinical. Translate that for me.
Sure. So think of a slot machine. If you won every time you pulled the lever, you'd get bored pretty quickly.
Right.
And if you never won, you'd quit. But if you might win, if you don't know what you're going to get.
The uncertainty.
Exactly. That uncertainty triggers a massive dopamine spike. That's the blind box. It's the thrill of the hunt, just packaged in foil.
It's Schrodinger's cat, but like cute.
Precisely. Until you open it, it is both the rare character you desperately want and the common one you already have 3 of. That potential is what you're actually buying.
But here's the friction point, and this is what I really want to challenge you on today as we go through our sources. That dopamine hit is getting expensive.
Oh.
Like, really expensive. I'm seeing this cuddly cult phenomenon with brands like Pop Mart, where those Labubu monsters are selling for upwards of $40 on the resale market.
Yeah, or Sunny Angels hitting $30.
Exactly. $30 for a piece of plastic the size of my thumb. If you have bills, that adds up fast.
It's the hype tax. When a collectible becomes a status symbol, the price completely decouples from the manufacturing cost.
Right.
You aren't paying for the plastic anymore. You're paying for the clout.
So if I'm not a crypto millionaire, but I still want that hit of whimsy for my desk, where do I go? That's the mission for today's deep dive.
It's a solution to the problem.
Right. We are looking at Smoko because they supposedly offer that same detailed, whimsical experience for a fraction of the price. We're talking under $18, sometimes as low as $7.
Smoko is the perfect case study here. They've managed to create this massive cult following without the cult prices.
Which is the price of a sandwich in most cities now. Actually, less than a sandwich in some places.
Exactly. So the question we have to answer from the source material is, at that lower price point, are you just buying junk?
No.
Or have they actually cracked the code on affordable quality?
Because usually cheap toys are just cheap toys.
Right.
Let's start with the entity itself. Who is Smoko? Because looking at their branding, they seem very LA.
They are quintessential Los Angeles. They launched around 2011, and their whole defining commitment is to work and whimsy.
Work and whimsy.
Yeah, and that is a very deliberate pivot from traditional toy companies.
How so?
Well, traditional toy companies, think Mattel or Hasbro, they design for the play patterns of children. They focus on durability for roughhousing or bright primary colors for visual development.
Sure, that makes sense.
But Smoko designs for what they call the deskscape.
The deskscape. I love that term.
It's a real thing. They understand their target audience is adults who never quite feel like fully growing up.
Yeah.
These are people likely staring at a monitor for 8 hours a day.
Right. They don't want a toy to play with on the floor.
Exactly. They want an adornment, something to soften the corporate edge of their workspace.
So that explains the product range. I was looking through the notes, and it's not just blind boxes.
Not at all.
It's ambient lights shaped like boba tea, mochi plushies, bag charms.
It's all about comfort. But let's look at the sheer variety they offer. It is a deep catalog.
Yeah, I was surprised to see just how many different series they have. Over 40 different blind box series.
And what's really smart is their mix of IP intellectual property. They have their own bespoke characters like Hank the Yeti.
Oh, I have thoughts on Hank. We'll get to him.
We definitely will. But they also secure partnerships with major legacy brands. Miffy, the Dutch Rabbit, Care Bears, and perhaps most interestingly, QP.
QP. See, this is where I get a little skeptical. Usually when a smaller brand licenses a big legacy name, the quality drops.
Because they have to pay those huge licensing fees.
Right, it's the merch trap. You slap a recognizable logo on a cheap product and hope the fans buy it regardless of the actual quality.
That is a very valid concern.
So how do we actually evaluate if these are good? If you're listening and you're holding a sealed box or looking at a card online, how do you know if you're getting ripped off?
In the world of vinyl art toys, the sources outline 3 main pillars to consider. If you're a serious collector evaluating an item, this is your checklist.
Lay them on me.
Pillar 1 is price, or specifically value.
The under $20 rule.
Exactly. Basically, how much stuff are you getting for your dollar? Unless a mass-market vinyl figure is hand-painted, super limited edition, or incredibly complex, spending more than $20 feels excessive for a toy.
Okay, so Smoko fits that budget-friendly bracket easily. Most of their stuff is under 18.
Correct. There are exceptions, like the Nomi keychains, which are enormous, cuddly plushies, so the material cost is naturally higher. But generally, they sit firmly in that impulse buy safe zone.
Got it. Okay, pillar 2. This is the one I struggle with when buying online.
Detail and quality. And this is where you really have to get tactile. Collectors talk about the squish versus the brick.
I assume we don't want the squish?
Generally, no. Cheap, hollow plastic feels oily and gives way when you squeeze it. High-quality vinyl rotocast vinyl should feel dense. A good blind box has weight to it.
Heavier usually equals higher quality.
Yeah.
It's that difference between a dollar store plastic soldier and a proper figurine.
Exactly. And visually, up close, you're looking for crisp details. Does the paint bleed? Smoko is surprisingly good at this. They use pad printing that keeps the visual details very sharp.
And the third pillar,
Authenticity.
which feels kind of weird to say about a $12 toy. Are people really bootlegging these?
Rampantly. The danger of buying from random sellers is huge. You risk getting counterfeits or dupes made from inferior, sometimes unsafe chemicals.
So stick to the brand site or trusted resellers.
Yes. Places like Urban Outfitters, just to be safe.
Okay, so we have our framework: value, quality, authenticity. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. I want to apply this to the QP connection specifically.
The QP and Cups blind box series.
Yes, because when I dug into the source material on this, I found out I knew absolutely nothing about the history of QP.
Most people don't. We just think of the mayonnaise brand, right?
Yes, or just a generic, slightly creepy baby doll.
Well, the QP and Cups series from Smoko is a masterclass in blending that nostalgia with the modern deskscape aesthetic. You have these 5 variations cherubs sitting in bowls, teacups, kettles.
The one in the cupcake liner is the one that caught my eye. It's just ridiculously cute.
It is, but look at the face. The sources highlight the angelic expression. Getting that specific wide-eyed look right on a piece of vinyl that's less than 3 inches tall is difficult.
Because 1 millimeter off, and it looks deranged, it goes from cute to haunted doll very quickly.
Exactly. But the real expert insight here isn't just about the plastic itself. It's the historical lineage. The plastic pouch features classic illustrations by Rose O'Neill.
This is the part that blew my mind. I had no idea QP had an author, let alone this specific author.
Rose O'Neill was a titan. In the early 1900s, she was not just a cartoonist. She was the highest-paid female illustrator in the world.
And a fierce advocate for women's rights, too.
Yes, an early suffragist. And just to be clear for you listening, as we always do when the sources bring up political history, we aren't taking any sides or endorsing specific political viewpoints here. We're just impartially reporting what the historical context of the source material says.
Right, absolutely. We're just sharing the history. But it really elevates the object, doesn't it? From just a piece of plastic to a piece of history.
It does. It changes how we value these plastic objects.
Yeah.
When you buy a Smoko Kewpie, you aren't just buying a mayonnaise mascot. You are buying a piece of iconography linked to Rose O'Neill.
It creates a real so what factor. It turns a piece of desk decor into a genuine conversation starter.
That is the definition of insightful collecting.
Okay, let's pivot from high history to absolute absurdity. We need to do a deep dive into the peanut familia.
Oh, this series. This is where Smoko gets delightfully weird.
It's a family of peanuts. But the cast of characters is just absurd. You have Papa Peanut, Mama Peanut, Annie Peanut, Uncle Peanut, Cousin Peanut.
And Harold Peanut.
Why is his name Harold? Is he the neighbor?
It implies a whole soap opera, doesn't it?
It really does. But from a technical standpoint, going back to our quality pillar, the tactile details on this series are interesting because of the material.
Right. The sources mention it's a weighty vinyl that feels soft to the touch. A matte finish.
Which feels more premium than that cheap, glossy plastic.
It mimics the shell of a peanut but smooths it out, and the visual specifics are great. Take Uncle Peanut. He is adorably bespeckled.
He has these tiny little glasses.
Printing glasses on a round, uneven surface is a nightmare for manufacturing. Pulling it off at this price point is impressive.
But the real aha moment here, the showstopper, is Mama Peanut.
Yes. The surprise within a surprise.
Explain this, because it's brilliant.
So unlike the others, Mama Peanut actually opens up. You pop open the shell, and hidden inside are two tiny peanutling babies.
It's peanut inception.
Think about the tooling cost for that. You need separate molds for the top half, the bottom half, and the two babies inside, and you have to engineer it to snap shut satisfyingly.
And they're selling this for what, under $16?
It adds an incredible fidget factor to the toy. It's interactive.
If that's on my desk, I'm definitely popping it open and close while I'm on a Zoom call.
And that interactivity deepens the bond with the object. It stops being background noise.
Speaking of bonding with objects, let's talk about the Smoko Friends Sleeping series, because this perfectly captures that work and whimsy vibe, but mostly the exhaustion part of work.
The vibe is just cozy, snooze-worthy displays.
We are all tired. The cast is great. You have Potato on a pillow, Lilby Dumpling, Billy Beats, Midori Daikon.
And a Lodi unicorn on a cozy star.
But we need to discuss Hank Yeti.
Hank is fantastic.
He isn't just sleeping, he is sprawling out on the floor. And there is this specific narrative detail on his chest.
He's holding a tiny book, and the title of the book is How to Be a Yeti.
How to Be a Yeti. That tiny detail adds so much narrative depth to a static object.
A cheaper toy would just have him sleeping. By adding the book, he has imposter syndrome. He's a Yeti, but he feels like he needs to study the manual.
It completely mirrors the user's anxiety, but neutralizes it with cuteness. It's just small moments of light in a stressful world.
Exactly.
Okay, for the listener who is strictly looking at the budget, maybe the $15 price point still feels a bit high. There is a budget option.
Yes, the Tato Treats Mini Blind Box. This is the $7 price point.
$7. The theme is mini but mighty.
They are all food-based themes. The menu has all these possibilities: a roll cake, fruit sando, cinnamon roll, chocolate croissant, donut, flan, matcha cake.
Now, usually, mini means a bad paint job.
Not here. The source specifically points out the pancake stack option. It's very easy to just make a beige blob at that scale.
Right.
But Smoko includes a charming pat of butter on top that actually has dimension.
It creates a visual contrast. Even at $7, they aren't treating the customer like a fool.
They respect the aesthetic. And that creates trust, which keeps people coming back.
So, we've established the what and the why. Now we need to quickly hit the logistics of collecting. If you want to start a collection, where do you buy?
We need to revisit the authenticity argument here. There is a very explicit warning in the sources against Amazon and eBay for these specific items.
Because of the prevalence of counterfeits?
Counterfeits, yes, but also a practice called weighing. Unscrupulous sellers will weigh the blind boxes because different figures have slightly different weights, open the rare ones to sell at a huge markup, and then sell the common ones as if they are a random mystery.
Wow. So you're guaranteed to get the one nobody wants.
Exactly.
Good.
The recommendation is always direct to consumer. The Smoko website is the safest bet to ensure you get the real deal and that high-quality, weighty vinyl we talked about earlier.
Rather than a cheap knockoff.
Right.
So, to synthesize all of this for you listening, we started off talking about how you don't need to spend $40 on a Labubu to get that dopamine hit.
You really don't.
Smoko offers detailed, weighty, and historically interesting options, like the Rose O'Neal Q-Pie for under $18.
It proves that the value of play in adulthood isn't just about mindless consumption.
No, it's about those small moments of light, like a bespoke Yeti reading a book on how to be a Yeti right in the middle of your stressful workday.
Which brings up a really fascinating point to consider.
What's that?
When does a toy actually become art or decor?
That is a great provocative question for you to mull over. Is it the price tag that makes it art? Or is it the story, like Rose O'Neal's involvement, that changes how we value these little plastic objects?
Definitely something to explore on your own.
Something to think about the next time you look at the deskscape in front of you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Catch you next time.